I was almost in bed, guys, but some of you dedicated few sent me messages on Twitter and Discord after our little live stream where we talked about all the details that we know so far about Zero, the newest hero, and the new upcoming TEPPEN expansion pack in early March 1st. To be specific, if you want to see that stuff, the stream is archived on YouTube. You should go check it out. But what we're talking about now is something that we have been waiting for, and that is the specifics on the balance changes that were teased to us earlier this month. We now have those juicy details, and I just cannot rest without giving you guys my thoughts on this information and making sure you know what's going to be popping and TEPPEN here within the next couple of weeks. So an update rolled out to the website. It's the second update of the night. The first one is about the new expansion and Zero. You can go read about that if you want. The wording at the beginning of this post has not changed. I've read it a couple of times. It just basically says, hey, we have data. We're trying to do our best to keep an eye on what's popular right now and what things are too strong and make adjustments as we go. So the list previously of things that were being adjusted cards wise were Iris, Hoyt Sol, Hell Antinora, Soul's Return, Surge of Demonic Power, and Starvation Impulse. That list has not changed. That has always been the original list of card adjustments for March. So there's nothing additional here. The only thing that we have now are the context and the details of those changes. So let's go into that. This is fresh for the most part, and then I will give you my thoughts as we go. So with Iris, she is originally, as she is now, she is a 5-cost 1/6 with shield and MP boost 50, or 50% MP boost increased rate. What she will be now, after this patch, is a 5 MP cost 1/4 with shield and MP boost 50. And their reasoning is, with high MP boost as well as high defensive capabilities, this unit survives on the field for a long time, resulting in massive MP advantage. By adjusting its defenses, the amount of attacks and counters needed to destroy this unit is reduced, making it easier to deal with. I've always thought that Iris was overtuned for what she does, and considered that a nerf could be coming. Now, I think the nerf that everybody expected was for her to be increased in cost, maybe up to 6, so she's not in dual color decks, and those dual color, like as an example, like black green, lots of batteries, and then the really good black cards to buff those units. That deck would kind of fall by the wayside. Not that it's overpowered by any stretch of the imagination, especially right now. So I don't mind this change so much. I think it's pretty fair. If they'd have just kept it as a 1/5, I think it would have been too much, and she would have just still been better than Lair. Now her and Lair are pretty close, just because they're a little bit different in terms of application because of Lair's anti-air. But this card people will still play Iris. Don't get me wrong, this card will still get played. However, you may play less than 3 of them in the decks that you would consider using for ramp. You may only run 2 at this point. But I think this is pretty fair. I'm okay with this. So Hoyt Sol, it's a green card that everybody loves to hate. It is the 6 MP cost 2/8 with shield and anti-air. If it is summoned unascended, it cannot attack. But if it's ascended, it gets +4 attack and it can attack normally. The only change here is it only has 6 HP, not 8. And their justification is, though it contains a strong effect for Ascended, Hoyt Sol was a very strong defense even before it became Ascended. Because of that, it tends to stay on the field for a long time, allowing for multiples to be placed. This makes comebacks difficult, and games are often decided at that point. By adjusting its defenses, the amount of attacks and counters needed to destroy this unit are reduced, making it easier to deal with. I think this is a very fair change for Hoyt Sol. Hoyt Sol is still a good card. 100%. But in terms of for the cost and what you got out of it, it was too good. It was overtuned. Now it's a little more fair. I'm 100% on board with this change. I think it is justified, but it's not going to completely obliterate this card. You can still run 3 Hoyt Sol and be just fine. Hell Antinora's change is pretty simple. This is a card from the Devil's Awaken. It's a 4-cost purple unit that all around is pretty good. As it is now, it's 4 MP with 2 attack and 5 HP, and whenever it takes damage, it deals its own damage out equivalent to its attack to a random enemy unit. The only change here is instead of a 2/5, it's now a 2/4. And that's just because their reasoning is they say this card is powerful enough that it can take down colossal units that cost 6 MP or more on its own. By adjusting its HP, massive units with high attack should be able to handle this card easier. I didn't necessarily think that this card was OP. I think this card is kind of a bit of a what's kind of a term in some games is a pub stomper. Like if a Ryu with not a lot of experience goes up against this Hell Antinora, of course he's going to think this card is overpowered. I didn't think it was busted before. This is one of those nerfs that I don't really think has much merit. I think people just need to get better. I hate to just throw out the get good, but I've talked about this in another video before. You know, I think it's fine. The nerf in itself is kind of a bit of a bummer. That means generally it can take one less swing than it could before. But I mean, people will still play it, so I guess it's all right. Sol's Return. This is a big nerf. This card is 8 MP. It's an action to return all units to their respective decks. Now it's an epic, so you can run more than one copy. The way it will be after the nerf is it removes 3 cards from your deck and then returns all units to their respective decks. Now the cards that are removed are random. So if you're running a purple deck that has a lot of unique legendaries that could potentially assist in what you're trying to do, you could toss one of those in the trash can and not even know it. So their reasoning is, although this card gains a strong effect at the end of a high MP cost in decks that utilize restricting the amounts of units on the board and wow, that is a long sentence. Basically, they think this card's getting used too much in one game. I'm not going to read their sentence because that's a really long, wordy sentence. I don't know. I mean, this card is good. Sol's Return is annoying, but it's a board. It evens the board. So I don't know. This really hurts this card. This is a big hit to this card because you could potentially toss away some key aspects to your deck, and you can't check what's left in your deck or your graveyard. So how are you going to know what you lost? I don't know. It just seems really, really risky now. I don't know. This card may, I don't know. This card may fade away because of this. We'll just have to see. It's the big one. It's the one you've all been wondering about. Surge of Demonic Power. Even though it has definitely fallen off in terms of popularity, people love to hate this card, myself included. So what it does is it's 6 MP. It's a purple legendary to change the MP cost of all cards in both players' hands and EX pockets to 1. Now it will only half the MP cost of all cards in both players' hands and EX pockets. They say even though this also affects your opponent, its strength was being able to use it at a time advantageous for you. In addition to that, being able to get this card into your starting hand provided too much of an advantage. Because of that, we have adjusted this card's effect. There was a point where Resonate players were mulliganing hands in search of this, because if you got this in an opening hand, you were in great shape. The card is still, I mean, it's insanely powerful. This nerf is, it's a big one. It's kind of heavy-handed because you're not going to get those 1 MP cost brainwashes anymore. But I think it still has application because it's still useful. So I think we'll still see play, but depending on what new cards we get out of the new expansion, it may fall off. I don't know. But I think in terms of where the game is now, it's definitely still playable. This one I'm upset about because I think it was 100% unnecessary. Okay, with that out of the way, Starvation Impulse. This is a 2 MP cost action for black. It sacrifices 3 life and gives a friendly unit +1/+1. But if a friendly unit has had the Ascended status at least once during the battle, it gives you an additional +2/+2. Now they've changed it so you have to have that Ascended status 3 times, and here is their justification. This card offers a powerful effect at the cost of having to meet certain conditions. However, since the necessary Ascended count was so low, you were able to easily obtain and use this powerful effect on a unit early on in the game, often leading to certain victory. That statement is misleading. We have adjusted its needed Ascended count so that you cannot utilize its full potential straight from the start. Starvation Impulse is a card for aggro aggressive decks. Almost all of the aggro aggressive decks are tier 3 or worse. Why are you doing such a heavy-handed nerf to a series of decks that aren't even that good in comparison to where the meta is now? Now, I know some of you will probably be like, but Stout, these guys have more information. They know what cards are coming. Even still, why are you nerfing a deck that's already bad? It frustrates me because I'm an aggro player and I like to play aggressive decks. And I mean, this card, in my mind, you wouldn't run like more than 1 copy of this card now. Like, that's a big hit. Let's talk about hero arts. There were 3 on this list before. Let's start with Shinku Hadouken. You guys know what this does. It's 18 AP to deal 7 damage to a unit of your choosing, an enemy unit specifically. Now it is 20 AP. And their reasoning is due to the ways to prevent damage is limited, and this being a powerful damaging effect, we have adjusted the frequency this can be used in one battle. The only reason I'm okay with this is because they nerfed Wesker's Dark Destruction from 18 to 20, and it's still applicable. But I don't know. I didn't think Shinku was too overpowered, but I know I'm in the minority there. I know I'm definitely in the minority when it comes to that. So Shinku will be fine. People will still play Ryu. I'm not worried about it. Yawn is confirmed getting nerfed. Pulled out. 3-2. Yawn is confirmed. It's getting nerfed. Get out your air horns. Sound them off. Rejoice if you're a Yawn hater, and I wouldn't judge you for it. So Yawn was 15 AP to gain 4 MP when leaving the field. This is an effect you put on a unit. Now it costs 20 AP, and their reason for the change is simple. Due to its ability to easily create a huge MP advantage, we have adjusted the frequency this could be used in one battle. This is totally fair, it's totally justified, and people will still play Yawn. It's still super playable. They didn't change the wording, so you're still almost guaranteed to get the trigger off on that Yawn to get that bonus MP. You're just not doing it as often. Totally justified change. I'm very happy with this one. Last one on the list is Shadow Blade. So that was 18 AP to deal 4 damage to an enemy unit. If that unit has flight, you deal 6 damage, and you gain life equal to the damage that you deal. Now it has been adjusted. The only change is you only gain 2 life whenever you use it. Part of the reason Shadow Blade was so good was because the sustain was so easy to get and it was so consistent that Morgan players were able to get really low on life and just be able to heal themselves back up, leading to a bit of a stall effect. This is going to prevent that to a degree, but Shadow Blade on the flip side is still very playable. It's still a really good hero art. If you're going to nerf something, and I've mentioned before that I would rather there be buffs instead of nerfs, this is the way you do it. This is the way you balance it. A subtle tweak that doesn't completely obliterate the idea of what it is that you're adjusting. I'm 100% a fan of this. I think it's totally okay. So there you go, my dudes. There are the thoughts on the balance changes, all the details. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure you guys are going to be super opinionated on this one. I'll go into a more detailed video about Zero and the new expansion when we have more details. We just don't have enough cards yet or information about the new mechanic to understand it to the level I want to before I present it to you. So that'll come at some point. Thank you so much for watching. If this is the kind of content you enjoy, you know what I want you to do. I want you to like it. I want you to subscribe it. I want you to talk to me in the comments because I love you guys. All right, I'm going to bed. See you later.